នៅក្នុងសប្តាហ៍នេះកម្មវិធី Women Tech Media យើងនឹងជួបអ្នកជំនាញម្នាក់ដែលមានបទពិសោធន៍ជាង16ឆ្នាំនៅក្នុងអង្គការសហប្រជាជាតិដែលហៅកាត់ថា UNDP និងមានសាវតាខាងសេដ្ឋកិច្ចនិងហិរញ្ញវត្ថុមុនពេលដែលលោកបានបំពេញការងារនៅប្រទេសកម្ពុជាលោក Beresford បានបម្រើការងារជាអនុប្រធាន UNDP ប្រចាំប្រទេសបង់ក្លាដេសលើកម្មវិធីដែលរួមមានការកាត់បន្ថយភាពក្រីក្រនៅទីក្រុងនិងការកាត់បន្ថយហានិភ័យនៃគ្រោះមហន្តរាយតោះស្ដាប់អ្វីដែលលោកនឹងចែករំលែកជាមួយយើងអំពីការចូលរួមរបស់ UNDP លើផ្នែកស្ត្រីនិងបច្ចេកវិទ្យាទាំងអស់គ្នាជំរាបសួរបងប្អូនតាមដានកម្មវិធី Women Tech Media ថ្ងៃនេះដែរនេះខ្ញុំសុជាតានឹងនាំបងប្អូនទាំងអស់គ្នាទៅជួបជាមួយនឹងលោកនិកដែលជាប្រធាន UNDP ហើយយើងទាំងអស់គ្នានឹងរងចាំទស្សនាមើលទាំងអស់គ្នាថាតើថ្ងៃនេះលោកនិកមានអីចែករំលែកទៅដល់បងប្អូនទាំងអស់គ្នាចា៎សូមអញ្ជើញជួបជាមួយនឹងនិកទាំងអស់គ្នាចា៎ជំរាបសួរអូខេCan you would you mind to speak in Khmer or you want to conduct in English?
ខ្ញុំនិយាយភាសាខ្មែរ tech តែភាសាអង់គ្លេសសំដៅ
Okay ចាសង្ឃឹមថា yeah maybe next time we can conduct our interview in Khmer hopefully.
Right, next time. Okay.
Okay, yes. So first of all I would like to ask you a question related to your educational background. Would you mind to share our audience about your educational background? How can you come to the positions? What education that you have so far? Yeah.
My background's in economics. So I studied economics at Sussex University. Before that, I had a professional career in finance as an auditor, and so I qualified in that. Before that, I studied English literature at college when I was a student. So my background is really kind of finance and economics. You know, that's how I come to the work I'm doing here.
Okay. What about your family? Because normally in family they always have their father or their mother that provide them guidance to study economics or study literature. What about your father and mother? What are they doing at time?
Well, my mother and father, you know, when they were alive, so my mother was, actually she was a yoga teacher. So she taught for many, many years and studied in India. My father was an engineer and he worked in marketing. But both of them were, I was very lucky to have very supportive parents, and they said, find out what you love to do.
Oh, cool.
And I think it was very good advice, you know, as if you can find a job you feel passionate about and something that you really want to do, then working becomes much more of a pleasure and much less of a chore. And I think that was, I was very fortunate to have had that support and that guidance.
So how many siblings do you have? Because normally in Cambodia, when we have a family, when they have son or daughter, they always send their son to school. So back to your family. So how many siblings do you have?
I have one older brother.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
And he's a barrister, a legal professional. Yeah. He lives in Hong Kong. He's been there for many years. Yeah, and he has family out there.
Okay. So talking about your current job as the leader in UNDP in Cambodia, so what passion do you have? Why you take up the position? There should be something that bring you here.
I feel my passion is development work, and I've worked in lots of different countries. But working with UNDP has been a great privilege because I get to work in lots of different and interesting areas like youth employment, employment opportunities for women and girls, for example, that we're going to talk about today, but also in social protection, environmental protection, combating the climate crisis and so on. And this work that the UN does as a UN country team has been inspiring, and so this is the kind of thing that motivates me. It gets me up in the morning, and it's what I want to do.
Okay, So talking about UNDP program, what is the new initiative for year 2020?
Well, we have a number of new initiatives here. One of the programs I think that's relevant to your area of expertise and interest is in youth employment. You know, you have this fantastic asset. You have 2/3 of the population under the age of 30. You've got this wave of new technology coming through. And if you can access young people with the right education, the right opportunities and the right skill sets, then you can ride that wave, and that can really accelerate prosperity. That can help a country leapfrog ahead into new technology, higher productivity, and an increased prosperity that can be shared with all people.
So what do you see about the digital trend in Cambodia? Because you talk about young unemployment, and some people, when we talk about digital economy, people are always afraid to lose job. They say, oh, technology will take up their job. And looking back to your program, so how can you make sure that young people get the right job and then they will not lose job because of digitalization?
Well, you're right. I mean, new technology has opportunities, but it also has threats, because the new technology can be labor replacing. You know, this is when it's a threat. You know, and this is particularly challenging for a country like Cambodia, where so many people are involved in the manufacture of ready-made goods or textiles. You know, and 80% of those people are women. You know, now those jobs could potentially be vulnerable if new technology comes along that automates those. But there's also great opportunity as well, because you know, we've seen all the way through the industrial revolutions that we've had, Industrial Revolution 1, 2, 3, and now the new one that's coming through now, and the 4th Industrial Revolution, that each time we do see new technologies, we do see shifts in labor patterns, but we overall, you know, end up into a position where we have an increase in prosperity. Now, it's kind of how we manage that, and it's the government policies that we put in, it's the way that we educate, and to make sure that everybody has the chance to benefit from that and share from that new prosperity. I think that's the important thing here. So, I mean, for a country like, for a young country like Cambodia, I think the key is the investment in education and skills, you know, because we can see this technology coming towards us. See, with the first industrial revolution, the second, and arguably even the third, I don't think it wasn't recognized before. You know, it was only when people look back in time they saw that revolution. They could see it in their rear view mirror. Yeah. But we can see it through the windscreen. We can see it coming towards us. So that's a great that's a great chance, you know, that we can then try to help prepare for it, so that we can try to maximize the opportunities, and we can try to mitigate some of those threats and risks.
So we already know the challenges and the investment that we should put in education. So what's the role of UNDP in terms of education? Because you just said you also have a youth program and women empowerment program. Mm-hmm. Maybe you can elaborate a little bit more about these two programs, and how can people, especially young people, can get access to your program?
Well, one pilot program we're doing at the moment through the Youth Employment project is we're working with She Investments. So She Investments are looking to help young women entrepreneurs who have got good ideas, who have already started up, but now they need to move up to the next stage. And at the moment, we've identified 30 of them to come into this program to help accelerate their businesses. Now, 30 doesn't sound much, you know, but I think if those 30 women, even if only one, if we can get a few of them so their business can start to expand, they're going to hire people. Those people will get trained. They're going to go and expand those businesses. And I think that, you know, and also we can help She Investments, and this institution gets stronger, gets better, can expand itself, and we can start to help contribute to a virtuous circle that expands opportunities for entrepreneurs, that brings in more investment for learning, for training, and, you know, contributes to an expansion of the economy in this way.
What about lab? Because I heard that you also have a lab for entrepreneurship. So what is about that lab? What the benefit of creating that lab?
Okay, so the last time you and I met was
Yeah.
at the launch of the Accelerator Labs, right, at the factory. Okay, this is a new initiative that's been started by UNDP globally. And in 60 offices around the world, we've created these Accelerator Labs. And they're not called innovation labs, they're called acceleration labs. And it's really the idea that in many of the countries that we work in, we see great ideas already. We see a lot of good innovation. We see a lot of good of creativity. We're saying, okay, how can we bring investments to that? How can we in the UN support and nurture this so that it can grow up faster, it can grow up stronger? So the innovation labs at the moment are looking at areas such as social protection, youth employment, environmental protection and so on, the circular economy, and are focusing on these kind of areas to see how can we be more creative, how can we be more dynamic, and how can we find those local heroes here in Cambodia who are already pioneering the great work, and that we can get behind that, match it with government, match it with private sector financing as well, and this is the way that we can help accelerate those development solutions.
Yeah, I really appreciate this initiative, but so far when I go down to provinces, so then they said that, oh, we have so much, we have so many ideas, but we don't really have resources. So all this program will be in provinces as well, or just only piloted in Phnom Penh?
Well, to start off with, we're working in Phnom Penh, so many of the initiatives that we've had are from here. But we've also started up, for instance, we held UN Day in Battambang last year. We were down in Sihanoukville recently talking with the new governor. So we're keen also to make sure that our programs are national and are not just for the capital. For instance, our new social protection programs are all going to take place in provinces in the north. There we're going to go out to try to find in those rural areas where there is the most need for social protection programming. We start there, so we don't balance it all in the capital city.
Okay, so how can people in rural area can access this kind of information or access all these resources? Is there any mechanism or channel go through to the people in rural area at the moment, or it will be a next plan?
Well, I think that what we really want to see in the rural areas is better internet connectivity as well as a starter to try to help connect particularly young people to the information and that is available on the internet. There's also, I think, a good argument sometimes for urbanization. Sometimes people see this as a negative, that lots of people coming into the cities, but actually that's often how many countries have grown. They've grown strong through high prosperity, a fast move out of poverty, because people became urban professionals, whereas maybe in several generations ago in their family that they were working in rural areas, they were doing manual work and they were a lot poorer. But then when they come into the urban areas, they can actually access many of the new service industries that are growing up, and they can then take part in that prosperity. I think at the same time we also want to make investments in rural agricultural productivity, so that those communities and those farming families that are staying in the farms where they are, then we can help them we can find greater prosperity. For example, one program that we have is on demining. So there's still a lot of landmines on the borders along Bantamiche and on the border with Thailand. And there, when we can free up land from landmines, we can hand it back to farming communities so it becomes productive. We can hand it back for schools. We have a new initiative called Safe Grounds, It's about creating from what were minefields and turning them into playing fields, sports facilities, and so on. So these are community resources, and I think these are the ways that we can also make sure that rural communities also benefit in the rise in prosperity that we see in Cambodia.
Yeah, I think there are some projects that implementing in capital city and some project implementing in rural area, and both sides can get benefit from UNDP project. But I'm wondering, maybe also our audience also have a question related to women, because as you said, women play important role, and then UNDP also have a strong focus on women. How can you see the role of women or the condition of women in tech industry at the moment?
I think that one of the issues that we have to face is that we do not have a gender equality, and without women having the same access as men and as boys to the equal levels of education, of training, then it's much more difficult also for women to have the same opportunities in technology and as being entrepreneurs or indeed as being professionals within the service industry. So I think one of the things that we need to do there is, we have a program working with the Ministry of Women's Affairs, for example, where we're looking at developing a gender equity policy, this Neri Ratanak program that they have with other ministries. And by trying to create a more even, a more level playing field that can benefit the women as well as the men. And I think that's one of the most important things, I think, in terms of access. But that access of women to technology, that access of women to the new jobs, is also a benefit for men and boys. And why is because once women are also being able to make their full contribution, the economy grows that much faster, and that benefits everybody. So this is a shared prosperity story. This is the reason why that gender equity is yes, of course it benefits women, but it benefits everybody. And I think that's why it's a particularly important and a particularly big opportunity for a country like Cambodia.
Do you see any challenges faced by women in technology at the moment? Because my background is not in technology, but when I joined technology industry, tech industry, there are a lot of challenges for me. One is about discrimination, and then from your own experience, do you see any challenges faced by women and girls in tech industry?
There's huge challenges, I think, for women, and that's one of the myths, I think, with the technology or with information technology, with internet or cell phones, or so, is that somehow it's just written by technical people, so therefore it's fair. It's not always fair. Often in technology you have all sorts of biases built into it. Why? Because they were designed by human beings. Mostly they were designed by men.
Yeah.
And often those gender attitudes are built into it. So you might have, for instance, an electric vehicle or a self-driving car, but one of the things that you might see is, how does the seatbelt fit? In most cars, seatbelts are actually slightly higher because the assumption is that men drive and women don't. Now when women get into cars, because sometimes the seatbelt is too high up, it's actually more dangerous for them. So that's why we actually see often in figures for road accidents that the toll on women is more than on men. So you can sometimes in technology have this unconscious or conscious bias built into even the design of laptops sometimes, or the design of the phones. Often it's that they've used a man's hand or for men to design the piece of equipment, not for women. And I think that there's a lot of these issues actually need to be addressed in technology. And I think but then I think the more then that women and girls actually become part of the tech startup scene, then the more that they are able, I hope to make that adjustment and that correction. But also I hope that men and boys also will then become more conscious of this and make their contributions to creating more of a level playing field. Because as I was saying earlier, that benefits everybody. That's really a win-win.
Yeah. And also I can see a lot of girls now come into tech industry, but they somehow face another issue is about support from the family or from the men. Do you think it's also happened in Cambodia or in other country? If you, because I learned that you work in other country too. This issue is happen everywhere or just only in Cambodia?
How do you mean? Sorry, say that again. If you.
Yeah, I can see that now more girls join tech industry.
Yeah.
But they also face another challenge in the family because they lack of support from their
Right.
parents, from their husband, and then they cannot fulfill their dream because when they start working, there are a lot of things around them that they need to support too.
That's a hugely important point. You know, the unpaid domestic care work that is necessary in any family. You know, so within a family, then work needs to be done to look after that family home, to take care of children and so on. And when the attitudes exist that this is somehow women's work, this is not men's work, then of course women are at a huge disadvantage because they now have two jobs potentially. You know, maybe a paid job, like men do in industry or services, but then when they get home they have an unpaid job, which is to take care of everybody else in the family.
Yeah.
So I think that, you know, and the one affects the other. So that means then that those women are going to be much more challenged when it comes to competing in the workplace or coming up as an entrepreneur with new ideas. So that's why I think it's so important that we address those gender equity issues, whether we're at home or in the office, because then we are opening up the opportunity for those women to contribute a lot more. That more inclusive development model is actually much more prosperous. It's much more efficient. It's much more dynamic. It's rather like, you know, having only half of the people in the office working. You know, I mean, you know, you want everybody working in this, but the social attitudes at home have direct social and economic effects within the real economy.
Yeah, I recall one thing because when you talk about women, I recall last year UNDP brought a robot. Yeah. So why you choose women as the robot at that time? So what's the meaning? Is something behind that?
Well, I'd say why not? You know, I mean, why shouldn't it be a woman? I'm really glad Sophia, Sophia the robot is well, you know, do robots have genders? And I guess they do, right? So Sophia is, you know, is a woman because there's a good positive message there. You know, it opens up our mind a little bit. You know. You know, having a robot as a man might fit somebody's expectations a bit more, but I would say maybe that we should challenge those expectations.
So what is the message behind that? Why you have Sophia as a woman's robot?
Well, that message is to women and girls to say, look, this is for all of us. You know, there's you can be on the frontier of technology and change. You can be the entrepreneur and the change maker just as much as any man or boy. You know, there's these gender issues shouldn't get in your way. You know, and the future is yours as much for women and for girls as much as it is for men and boys. That's the message.
Okay, I think it's a good message. And talking back to organization, so how many women working for UNDP and how many of them use technology to work to, let's say, increase their productivity at workplace?
UNDP has about 100 staff working in all of the projects, those are in the ministries and outside of the office, as well as within the office. And it's about 58%, about 52% men and about 48% women. So slightly more men than women. But in the actual country office itself, it's the other way around actually. There are more women than men. And yeah, the entire senior management team of UNDP are women. I'm the only man in in the senior management team. So I mean, you know, we in UNDP as a whole, globally, the resident representatives, we have a majority of women. So of all the people like me who run country offices around the world, the women are just over 50%.
Yeah, I think a big change. When I was a UNDP staff, I saw a lot of male, but now we can see a lot of female at UNDP offices. Do you have any messages to young people, what they should prepare themselves to cope with the digitalization?
I think the main message is, to the extent possible, get yourself into the education and the training. You know, learn these new technologies and also see it as a pleasure, you know, because a lot of young people are into this new tech. You know, they're playing on their phones, they're always on Facebook and so on, but then expand that, you know, become creative, take part of the programs that you can get involved in. You know, the more that you learn and the more that you're comfortable with that technology, I think then the second thing I would also say is, to the extent possible, and I know that some people have limited choices, and I know it's easier for me to say it than it is for some people to actually do this, but try to stay in school, you know, try to see it through, try to get up into tertiary or into university education, because if you can make that investment of time, if you can afford, if you can somehow get resources to do that, these are the things that will, I think, put you at a big advantage when it comes to labour markets, because a consequence of the new technology is that the jobs that are now being created and the demand that is there is increasingly sophisticated, it's increasingly high skilled, and I think that's going to be the future. So the more you're educated, the more that you're likely to be able to actually participate successfully in that labour market.
Yeah, thank you. What about women? Because we can see a lot of women SME in our country. Is there any advice or recommendation or suggestion to women SME to make sure that they can participate more in economic development?
I think you know, follow your passion, you know, and there is no intrinsic barrier from gender between either men or women, you know. So you know, we really encourage women to take part in this new technological revolution that's coming through, and to push back where, you know, people try through social attitudes or other ways to maybe limit the choice of women, or to maybe to exclude them. But I'd say the other message is actually to men and boys. I say to men and boys that you want gender equity. Why? Because, you know, if you know, when there was Steve Jobs and Bill Gates, where was the female Steve Jobs, the female, you know, the female equivalents, you know? And if they were there, then we'd have even more prosperity and even more technology. So, you know, the more that if the women can participate as much as the men, then, you know, this is not just inclusive, but it's actually more productive. So I think men and boys have a good reason to want to champion gender equity, because it's in their interests as well, because overall that creates a more prosperous world, it creates more jobs, it creates more industries, it creates a larger prosperity.
So can I call you a male champion for women leadership?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can. Yes.
Yeah. So because we really want to have more men like you to support women economic empowerment, so then we can have more women participate in filling field, I think. Yes. Because all the time I think we finish our interview with you today, and then hopefully we can meet you again next time.
Yeah, pleasure. Thank you. Welcome to that.